When I was in high school, I smoked pot, I drank, I tried a number of other things, and it was great. Now that I'm older, I do wish my friends and I had been a bit more responsible. But in spite of our mild recklessness, no one ever got seriously hurt, and no one ever got in any legal trouble. But we almost did one time, and the only thing that saved us was a bit of bravery, cunning, and most importantly, preparedness on the part of yours truly. Does it sound like I'm tooting my own horn? I kind of am. I'm very proud of this story, but there is an actual lesson to it. So own horn tooting is not the only thing that's going to happen in this video. Let me set the scene for you. It was the summer of 2006. I was back in my hometown of Spokane, Washington after my first year of college, and I was hanging out one evening on the back patio with my brother and some old high school friends while my parents were away on a short trip. As was par for the course of that time, my friends and I were enjoying a bit of booze, a bit of cannabis, and a bit of music. Not a bad time. But I think only the most generous person in the world would call it a party. There were only 5 of us, and as we approached midnight, we were only mildly intoxicated. The music, as well, was far from thumping, though not exactly quiet either, and we found out exactly how unquiet when we saw a flashlight beam shining on the back fence. Oh shit. When you're young and drinking and smoking pot late at night, you never want to see flashlights. They don't indicate more fun happening, it's only trouble. Now let me lay out the geography here for you. My friends and I were sitting here, and we saw the light coming from here. It didn't take long for us to deduce that the flashlights belonged to 2 sheriff's officers peering over the fence from the front yard. And it's important to remember here that in 2006, my friends and I were all either 19 or 20, so our possession of alcohol and cannabis was quite illegal. Now I suppose this is the point in the story where the average 19-year-old would panic. Fuck, run! Maybe try to escape out the other gate and come back later once the police have left, though probably getting caught in the process. Fortunately, I kept my head about me a bit, and I told my friends, turn off the music, take everything, and go inside. And then I headed over to the fence to talk to the friendly sheriff's officers. At this point, as you can probably imagine, my heart was pounding and my mind was racing. I really didn't want to get caught with pot and booze on my parents' property while they were away. And this is where that oh so important element of preparedness comes into play. A couple of years before this incident, 2 of my friends and I had watched a very cheesy but very informative video called Busted, the Citizen's Guide to Surviving Police Encounters. I'll give you a brief taste of it in glorious 240p.
I'll have to arrest you and keep you overnight in a jail cell with some very bad men who would love to do some very bad things to skinny little boys like the 2 of you. Do you understand your choice?
So yeah, the filmmaking ain't great, but we did learn some extremely valuable information from it, including the fact that if the police come to your door, you do not have to let them into your house unless they have a search warrant. You can simply talk to them out on the front porch with the door closed behind you, or talk to them through the crack in your door while you keep it securely chained. Another important fact we learned is that police will deliberately mislead you in order to get you to waive your rights. They'll say things like, okay, we need to take a look inside, can you let us in? And if you get scared, open the door and invite them in, then you have consented to a search. At that point, anything in plain view, a pipe on a shelf, an open container left out on the table, can be seized as evidence and used to arrest you. So all of these facts were once again swimming through my brain as I approached the fence with the 2 officers behind it. And I was getting ready to flex my rights, as the video said. Now keep in mind, this happened almost 13 years ago, so the particulars of the dialogue are no longer crystal clear. But when I got to the fence, I don't think I opened with the cliche, "Is there a problem, officers?" I think I just said, hello? And then one of the officers said, we got a noise complaint, you having a party back there? I said, nope, just a few friends talking and listening to music. We didn't realize we were bothering anyone, so we'll turn it off and go inside. And then he said, are you the owner of this property? I said, nope, my parents are. Are they home now? No, not right now, but they will be soon. And then he said, all right, we're gonna need you to open this gate and let us in. And there it was, telling me that I needed to open the gate. Had I been less prepared, I almost certainly would have done exactly what he said. And I don't know if my friends and I would have been in seriously deep shit or not, but no matter what, it wouldn't have been pretty. However, I had been expecting them to say something exactly like that. So I calmly replied, nope, that's not necessary. We'll turn off the music and go inside. We're sorry for bothering anyone. He then asked me something like, you guys been doing any drinking tonight? To which I responded, nope, just talking and listening to music, but we'll go inside now. Now, I actually made a mistake there, telling him we hadn't been drinking. If the police are able to catch you in a lie, it could mean trouble for you. So if an officer asks you a question to which an honest answer would incriminate you, what you should do is just keep your mouth shut. We usually think of the Fifth Amendment as applying to witnesses in court trials or people who have already been arrested. But in fact, it applies to any interaction you have with the law. The police in the United States and any other country that recognizes the right to silence cannot search you or detain you simply because you refuse to answer their questions. Anyway, as I recall, the officer and I went back and forth for another minute or two. He asked what we were doing, I lied or evaded the question, he said I really needed to open the gate, I refused, and so on. Finally, the officer who had been quieter throughout the exchange said something I remember very clearly, which was, "All right, well, I'm gonna go check these cars parked out front. If any of them are more than 12 inches from the curb, they're gonna get fucking towed." Now, why did he say that all of a sudden? Obvious, right? He was trying to scare me into opening the gate. He figured I would be the typical teenage idiot, run out saying, "Oh man, please don't tow my friend's cars, bro." And then the gate would be open and it would be that much easier for them to invite themselves in. When he said that, I immediately figured that he was bluffing, but I thought there was a slim chance he would actually do it. So I did a quick mental calculation. What's worse, having a car or two towed because of a minor parking infraction, or being caught with illegal substances on your parents' property? No brainer, right? So if you're ever in a similar situation and a cop makes a threat like that to you, let him tow the cars, for God's sake. Anyway, after the one officer stalked off to check the cars, none of which ended up being towed, by the way, the other officer didn't have much more to say. He finished with something like, "Well, we better not have to come back here." I said, "You won't," and that was it. I then walked back into the house, where my friends were waiting for me with understandably worried expressions. They, of course, had no idea what had been going on over by the gate. So I told them somewhat nonchalantly, "Yeah, they're leaving now. I told them I wouldn't open the gate." There was a brief pause as that news sank in, and then my friend said, "You're my fucking hero." And yeah, I felt like a hero too. But like I said, the point of this story is not just my own minor heroism. You can be a hero to your friends and yourself too if you ever find yourself in a similar situation. Learn what your rights are. Learn how to exercise them properly. Prepare yourself, your friends, and your family for dealing with the police before it ever happens. If you're an American under 21 and you're drinking and smoking pot, I salute you. I don't regret doing those things when I was young. Now, don't be stupid. Never get behind the wheel when you're intoxicated. It's so dangerous for yourself and others. And don't drink so much alcohol that you almost die of alcohol poisoning. Also not very cool. For any other drugs you're interested in, research them carefully before trying them, and be very cautious about when, where, and how much you consume. Otherwise, live it up, have fun. But be aware that if you're using illegal substances and throwing parties, there's a decent chance you'll have to deal with the police at some point. And they will absolutely try to trick you and intimidate you into giving up your rights and getting in more trouble than you would otherwise. Don't give them the chance. Know your rights.